Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. As you can see by the big cheesy grins, we're still in seventh heaven after the weekend's display. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10, you know the drill, and I'm joined once again by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW Twitter handle. Sean, how are you?
I'm very good, Tony. How are you?
Very good. Very good indeed. Skin graft, I don't think we'll get the smile off a lot of Celtic supporters' faces over the weekend, indeed. Now, quick bit of housekeeping, guys. You see it along the strap at the bottom, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. It's £1 for 2 months. You get the benefit of seeing Sean and I's lovely faces more or less every day, and some wonderful insight and articles on the website. Some from myself, some from Sean, and various other contributors like Kevin McKenna, Alison McConnell, various others as well. £1 for 2 months, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, Sean, Celtic 7, St Johnstone now. Discuss. Where do we start?
I don't know. Where do you start? I mean, it was... do you remember? I don't know if you remember this. The first shot of the game was actually St Johnstone's.
Yes.
So let's start right at the start.
Yes.
That was their only shot. So, no, I'd said in the data roundup that they didn't so much brush St Johnstone aside, they swat them right back up the A9. It was unbelievable. That was... I know there's been 2 6-0s, there's been the 3-0 against Rangers and stuff. And obviously the level of the opposition has something to do with it as well. But would you say that's the most complete performance of the season?
Well, if there's a definition of Ange ball, and I hate that expression, I think that would be it. You spoke to me off air and you said that Celtic attempted, 1,020 passes and completed 935?
That's it, yep. So 92% completion, 83% possession, 23 shots, 10 on target, 7 goals. Obviously one was a penalty. And I mentioned that St Johnstone shot, but you've got to remember that is the other side of the game. But they did restrict St Johnstone. I know St Johnstone brought very little creatively, but I will give the credit to Celtic for that as well. Yeah. I thought the couple of times when Celtic's interplay broke down, and it was only a couple of times, I would say, whether it was a loose touch or whether it was St Johnstone putting on some pressure, St Johnstone attempted to either play it long or play it out, and Celtic just totally swarmed them, whether it was winning it back high up the pitch or whether it was simply like Carter Vickers or Starfelt intercepting or heading it down at the back. They did restrict St Johnstone to that extent that they did only have that one shot. Joe Hart had nothing to do. It was that's why I'm asking if it was the most complete performance, because not only were they clinical in attack and played really well together, kept up that intensity, which I'm going to come to because you know what I'm like about the squad depth in the bench and all of that. But they also totally restricted St Johnstone to nothing in the other sense, the defensive sense. So I think it's up there.
Sean, you will not see a better football goal than the 47 pass move that ended up with Matt O'Reilly smashing the left foot one into the top corner. Honestly, you will not see a better football goal from any team all season, in my opinion.
It was superb. It was one of the ones I sat and counted them when I was reading. That's the kind of sad thing I do, but it was. And I'm not just saying this because it's obviously Greg Taylor, and I'm a known Greg Taylor apologist, but it did start doing his side with the composure not to lump it first and foremost, but to pass it out. And then obviously there was another 46 passes after that where they went all the way up, come back across, and then all that. But it did start from the back, as a couple of the goals did. It was the way that I put it in my kind of reflective piece that I've put up the day, which again we'll come back to more. It was a victory for the collective again for me, because the most encouraging part of the whole thing was that there was a lack of standout performers, and I don't mean that in a negative, I mean that in a positive, that every player in green and white played their part. They were all at a high level.
Yeah.
They all looked as if they had great fun doing it as well.
Yeah, they were all 8s and 7s, weren't they?
I think
mostly 8s, weren't they?
Mostly 8s, aye, mostly 8s.
And typified none more so than Maeda and the marvellous memes that were doing the rounds about Maeda after it, where he'd won the Grand National and all that. I mean, that was just hilarious. But man's a machine, isn't he, Sean?
He is. I mean, we've talked about him a couple of times the last couple of weeks, and he was phenomenal again. I think I think that front three, I realised Giakoumakis went off with an injury and stuff, and there was only half an hour of it, 26 minutes of it. But again, I think that front three were so fluid when they were together again.
Yeah.
I realise, obviously, Giakoumakis doesn't necessarily go out wide in the traditional sense of switching positions in that sense, but he drops deep, he chases, he harries, all of that. Jota and Maeda switching wings has paid off brilliantly the last few games when the team started together with those three up front. I'm intrigued to see it with Kyogo through the middle.
Yeah.
Because you would think there's a genuine, almost total football aspect to that where all three of them can interchange it at will. Same with Abada, I suppose, because you get a glimpse of that in the second half when...
Steady, Sean, steady. Behave yourself, though. Come on.
You get a glimpse of that in the second half, after half an hour when it was Abada, Maeda and Jota, and Abada obviously went wide and Maeda through the middle, but then they switched again and all that. It makes it so much harder for the opposition, as if it didn't need to be any harder as it was. But I mean, Maeda, to come back to him, I mean, the switching positions led to, was it two of the first three? I'm getting mixed up now, there was that many goals. Well, certainly Giakoumakis' goal. When he switched over to the right wing, because obviously Jota started there, it was Maeda's pressure that put Callum Booth into that position to have to play the back pass, and then obviously Giakoumakis. I mean, the anticipation that is a predatory kind of instinct there to do it, and obviously the angle as well. I think that's kind of going underrated a wee bit. That was, if I remember my primary school maths, that's what you call an acute angle. That was it wasn't easy
angle indeed, Sean. Yeah,
it wasn't easy.
Yeah, and also a two-touch finish, rare for the big man, but an exquisite two touches. But I know what you're saying there about the total football aspect. It's very fluid, isn't it? The way they just sort of interchange, and and I was watching that as well, and the players look very comfortable with it now. I tell you what it is as well, Sean. It's total entertainment. They are now entertaining, and if you remember what Anne said when he was unveiled, he said he'll give you a team that gets bums off seats. And I think,
I mean, in the words of Paul Weller, that's entertainment.
Yeah, very much so. And I don't think anybody complain about that. And you spoke there, Matt O'Reilly. I mean, he's coming on after 45 minutes. He scored 2 wonderful goals, but he's all round play. Celtic's attacking dimension took on another strength as well. Up the level as well, because some of his intricate passing and reverse passing was tremendous.
The one thing about Matt O'Reilly is, even when he's come on, and I realise this as I collate the data roundups and stuff, that even if he's only on the pitch for half an hour, because sometimes it has been as a sub, he's still up there. See, in terms of the key passes played and the passes into the box and stuff, he's always still up there. He very rarely doesn't affect the game when he comes on. Now, I will come on to it that all the subs affected the game when they come on. But O'Reilly in particular, I thought was excellent. The one thing I would say about him, when he has, whether he's started or whether he's come on as a sub, his performance levels have been high. In front of goal, not been necessarily up there. He's more about the pass before the pass, setting someone up, getting the ball in, all that. He'd done that again on Saturday, but he also added 2 cracking goals to it. So, put it this way, what more can you ask for someone to come on and say, start me in the derby on Sunday?
Yeah. Indeed. Now, here's a comment from Go On Yourself. What a pass from Kyogo to Mayada's chest for a barra shot into the goal. It was biblical. So that's one word for it, Go On Yourself. Like that, actually.
It's been a biblical theme. Kevin McKenna says it was a consecration of Ange Postecoglou last week, and then now we've got a biblical strike from Abada. So.
But yeah, I'm just looking at, the world's a better place, Sean, when your football team are swatting teams aside and playing, entertaining football, and that was more or less Kyogo's first contribution in the game, and he shelled a 30-40 yard pass on his mate's chest, and as you say, and it's gone yourself said it was a brilliant goal, but just determined to came deep. He talked about position, out of position, came deep and played that pass, and just great to see him back, isn't it?
It is, and you could see him, he's obviously, his personality is infectious, we know that, but see, having not seen it for a few months, it made it all the more poignant that it was at Parkhead, a full Parkhead, all that. and the reception that he got, you could see he loved it as well. He was absolutely buzzing when he came on, because you could hear him. You could hear the fans and the reaction that he got when they announced his name over the tannoy. You could see the wee smirk on his face. He loved it, loved to be back. And that, as you said, his first contribution. All right, he never got an assist for it technically, but it was key to that goal. It's very good. It's obviously timely. If you don't know, I mean, the Giakoumakis thing, they didn't seem overly perturbed by it, and it would be good to have both as the options. But regardless, the timing is also great if you want to look at it from that point of view.
That's the one. Well, two downsides: injuries to Giakoumakis and Turnbull. But I think Ange alluded to the fact at the end that he said that he just felt something. So rather than aggravate it, it came off. So they might have caught it in time. I'm not sure. I've not had any update on it yet. But Ange seemed to be more positive about it rather than it being a straight hamstring and keeping them out for weeks. Yeah, imagine.
Do you know, Tony, I says to you after the game, I thought, we've spoke a couple of times this season, I thought for a minute, my uncle also texted me saying this is the day it's going to be 10.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
You're not here. It's no exaggeration to say that it actually could have been. But you don't want to be greedy, I suppose. So 7's plenty. But was it Daniel, the comment in Friday saying 15-0?
I bet at one point he was getting excited. But yeah, and here's Pete McGee coming in. I tend to believe this as well. A genuine Rolls Royce for a player, Matt Riley. I have to watch out for the vultures down here in EPL because they've attracted a lot of attention.
Steady. He's only in the door 5 minutes. But to be honest, I do take the point. He was highly rated down south. He was down at Fulham. As I said when he joined, I mean, when I was doing the scouting report, the thing that stood out to me was, and I'm sure we'll come back to this topic when it comes to talking about like trying to Carter Vickers and Jota permanently in terms of the trade-off between getting football, winning things, money, all of that coming into the kind of perfect storm of signing for one club over the other and all that. But the one thing that did spring out to me about O'Reilly was the Athletic had done a feature on him when he was with Fulham. Just after he had left Fulham, and he said that he had turned down the contract, which, all right, they're not in the Premier League, but it's still a well-off club. They're a yo-yo club, so they've got all that money. And was highly rated, but he was not guaranteed the first team minutes that he was looking for at that stage in his career. It would have been easy for him to accept a 3-year deal. He declined it, and then the pandemic and all that led to him training in a park with his dad. But that was the kind of belief that he had in himself, that he wanted first team football, whether it was to be dropping down a division or not. Ended up going to MK Dons, stood out there, won himself a move to Celtic. He's playing, all right, he's only played European football for a couple of ties there, but ultimately playing European football, competing for trophies, playing in front of thousands more than he would be down south every week, and standing out, flourishing. That's the kind of that's what impresses me most about him. So I've no doubt he will have suitors at some point if he keeps this up, but he's here because he wants to be here.
Won't everybody? Let's be honest, including the manager. So we enjoy them while they're here, Sean.
Yep.
And long may it continue. Now, you've written a piece, haven't you, for the website today, talking about the building on the park.
Yes, the wider context, aye.
Yeah, and not so much jarring with at odds with what's happening on the park, but in terms of what Dermot Desmond was saying in his interview on Friday. Give us a flavour of that, Sean, let people know.
Well, first of all, I'll put this comment back up from Jim saying the whole team deserved man of the match. Because that kind of ties into it for me, in the sense that, as I've been going on about all season, about in terms of the squad depth and all of that. Now, I think Saturday is what it looks like. When I said to you on Friday, this could be the strongest bench he's had at his disposal yet. I think that was borne out. I think you could see that. Now, obviously, the level of opposition and all that comes into it, but that's what it looks like to me when the bench is strong enough to keep that kind of plan A intensity throughout a game, because they did not switch off for any of it. Everybody that came on made a contribution. It was like, as I point out in my piece, the average age of that starting 11 the outfielders, when you remove Joe Hart, was 25, just older than 25, and I think that bodes brilliantly well. Obviously, 2 of those were loanees in Carter Vickers and Jota, but regardless. But where I really got the positivity on Saturday was the bench. It just was that was the reason that it ended up 7 and didn't tail off after half time to me, or tail off after 50, 60 minutes. He opted to use all 5 of his subs. Now, all 5 of the people that come off I would classify as big players. You think about it, Giakoumakis, Abada, Giakoumakis, Rogic, Hatate, Jota, and then McGregor. Now, 4 of the 5 subs that come on, to me, give a flavour of where Celtic are going as a team and what he's building and why the bench has got me so excited and I'm in the morning. Giakoumakis goes off, you've got Abada coming on, then Maeda switches through the middle, all of that. Rogic goes off, Matt Riley's tormenting you for 45 minutes. Hatate goes off, Turnbull's coming back, champed at the bit to make an impression. Used to be that Jota would be untouchable even if he was having a kind of off day, you couldn't take him off. He comes off, Kyogo comes on. Now, obviously, McCarthy coming on for McGregor is the exception that kind of proves the rule with the quality of the other subs, because obviously there is a disparity between him and McGregor. But the average age of those subs, if you take McCarthy away, was 22 and a half. That just, to me, that sums up what Ange Postecoglou's trying to make there. There, a wee graphic that I've done for the article. That's all the players that qualify for our power ranking, so they've played 10% of the available competitive minutes. Look at the amount that are 24 or younger. And a lot of them aren't 24. A lot of them are 20, 21. I just think that bodes so well for the way that Ange Postecoglou's want to build this team. They're being built to last, is the way that I've put it. And that's include the fact that Carter Vickers and Jota are loanees, and obviously Maeda's technically a loanee, but he's going to be signing.
And will only get better, Sean.
That's the thing. They're in its infancy. It's in its infancy as a group. They've been built to last. They've been built to grow and win together. Now, that obviously in Saturday, James Forrest could have been thrown into that contention if he was fit. You've got other players from the kind of the B team that may or may not make the breakthrough, and then you've got another summer transfer window to come. So for me, it is massively important that in the summer, not that quantity's brought in, but again, what they've done in January, they just add here and there, maybe a wee bit of athleticism to kind of help them reach that European stage that Ange Postecoglou's wanting. Now, where that fits into the broader picture and the caveat that I've put in my article without spoiling the whole thing, because I'm obviously wanting you to go and subscribe to read it, but I've kind of juxtaposed all that positivity, and it's not even necessarily negativity, but with Dermot Desmond's interview, kind of giving a wee glimpse behind the curtain the other day, saying that basically Postecoglou was a name on a 5-man list, that basically him, Desmond and Peter Lawwell just seem to have a 5-man list that the two of them put together and just add to and take off as and when. And that brought me back to that term that everybody was talking about last year that's kind of been forgotten about because Postecoglou's done such a good job. But modernisation, Tony, if you remember that being
modernisation, yes, indeed, the buzzword,
No, I think many things could be taken for that interview, but I would take that part. I don't think that's the way that's the way that it should really be working at a modern football club. The two guys have a 5-man list and you just remove and take names on it. It's fine. It's
two
fine.
non-football men as well, Sean.
If you want to phrase it that way, aye. Don't get me wrong, it's worked with Postecoglou no matter what the process was to get it, but there is a process there that I'm not so sure about that. That's all. I don't have any more info than what Desmond allowed us there, but that I think that if a modern football club's going to thrive in the years to come, more than just season to season, then the fact that Dermot Desmond put it, the way that he put it was, for the last 2 decades, the manager has been the chairman of the board when it comes to football recruitment and all things football. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because I watch a lot of basketball. Head coaches over there sometimes are general managers as well, and they do the recruitment as well as the coaching, and they've got the combined role. Now, if that's fine, and I think actually as Postecoglou, you could have kind of the perfect guy to do that kind of thing, and he's going to be key to the way that the next few years play out. But it's almost beyond that as well. Now, he's on a 1-year rolling contract, and that is fine as long as it's fine. But that kind of manager as the chairman of the board attitude is only good for the club, to me, in the long haul. If the structure surrounding that guy reflects a kind of an underlying ethos, and it continues to do it, whether that figurehead is there or not, it shouldn't really chop or change with whoever's in the hot seat. I'm not saying it's going to, but if you're constantly with a 5-man shortlist, unless they've all got a similar philosophy and they're fitting into an existing structure, which hasn't been the case. You see that with the last couple of managers going from Brendan Rodgers to Neil Lennon to Ange Postecoglou. That's not a coherent structure, I would argue. Then basically what I'm saying is the structure supporting whoever's in the manager's hot seat should transcend whoever's in the manager's hot seat. even if it's going to be based on Postecoglou's philosophy, which I think is a great idea, actually. I think that everybody's kind of bought into the way he wants to play, the way that he wants to recruit, all of that. But what I would say is that he's building it on the pitch to this philosophy. Yeah. I think it's got to be make sure that the next 5, 10, 15 years, whether Postecoglou's here or not, ties in with that same philosophy.
Aye, off the pitch as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Very much so. Well said. I applaud that. Well said, that man. But as you say, building on the pitch, you can only be happy with what's happened so far, Sean, and it's still what we would class as early days in the rebuild.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've called I've went like phases. So the first transfer window, phase 1, second transfer window, phase 2, but not as like an alarming kind of we need to get people in phase is what phase 1 was. I think they handled phase 2 really, really well. Again, that very well could be that Ange kind of hybrid of manager, head of recruitment, general manager, that kind of thing, if you know what I mean. That almost American style thing that I'm talking about, where he's the head coach and the general manager, that kind of thing. If he is truly given the reins of head of all things football, the final decision maker, then I think that was probably reflected in the recruitment and the way that they've come in and adapted in the January signings. I mean, so for me, summer's phase 3, but obviously what's hanging over it is Carter Vickers and Jota. I think that's the top 2 of most people's wish lists. And I think what happens with them will probably dictate what business they do otherwise. Sure. But overall, I think it's more about tweaking things here and there, letting a couple of people go as much as recruiting a couple of people. And adding maybe, as I say, the athleticism that I'm talking about has always got to be married to technique and technical skill as well, because otherwise it won't work. In Ange's system, I would argue. It'll get you through a lot, but it won't work longer term. So he'll probably have targets, but I think it's more about quality than quantity, same as January was, and upgrading here and there rather than like last summer where it was get numbers in as much as anything else. But I think there'll be more of a coherent strategy with Ange in the driving seat as well. I'm just talking about with the Desmond comments. I'm just talking about the glimpse of, well, what happens if Ange leaves? Yeah. Does the whole strategy just go with whoever the next manager is, that kind of thing? So I think basing it all on Ange's strategy and the way that he wants to go is actually probably advisable, but only if it's going to stick with whoever succeeds Ange as well. Not that I'm wishing them out the door or anything, but just the overarching principle. Whoever would come in would have to be in that structure rather than ripping it up and going, no, I want to start playing 5 at the back or something like that kind of thing.
But you also know that Ange's recruitment, he's let us into the way he thinks on that. Mm-hmm. It's always about quality.
That was you that asked that question.
Players fitting into a system, exactly. Yeah. He doesn't just buy good players. He buys players on the knowledge that they'll fit into the system. He envisages them in that system. So you know that the players coming in are being bought for a reason, not just because he thinks they're good. He can actually see them and their role and their function in the team, you know.
I mean, it was you that asked that question. I remember the one about it, and he was talking about Arsene Wenger and Claire Fontaine and all that. It was a brilliant answer. And he did. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The signings that he's made. All right, Ideguchi aside, maybe because he's not had much game time, that the jury's still out on him. But the signings that you can point to that you know without a shadow of a doubt were Ange signings have all been successes. With Ideguchi, the exception so far. In terms of game time. Now, obviously, the first window, Ange himself said how frustrated he was with the speed of things as much as anything else. He notably didn't say he was frustrated with the quality of player or anything. He just said he's not that type. He's not going to throw a player under the bus or anything like that. But the speed at which they were getting players in was frustrating for him.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't the case in January. And I think he'll hope, and I think fans will hope that is the kind of sign of the way windows are going to be. Because I think the days of, whether it was deliberate or whether it wasn't, but the days of the dramatic last day of the window signing, I think they should be over for most clubs.
Out the window, as you say.
I think that those should be over for most clubs that want to do their business properly and want to get things done. I think it obviously was a thing for Celtic that you wait until the qualifiers are done. Rightly or wrongly, I would suggest wrongly, But if they win the league this year, they don't have that headache.
Yes.
But but I suspect that even if the worst happens and they don't and they end up in the qualifiers, I don't think for a minute that Ange is going to accept waiting until the qualifiers are done again. I just don't think it's in his makeup, and I think January proved that.
Postecoglou's too much of a forward thinker and a planner. I don't see him being a lastminute.com shopper manager. You know, he will already have in his mind players to come in the summer, and even players that will come in who could replace Carter Vickers and Jota should they not sign. He will have in his mind a list of players. He'll know exactly who he's bringing in, affordable per se. It's just a question of, again, getting that backing from the board, talking about this is fine if it's fine. If you get what I mean, you know, as you said there. So everything in place, but he will already know who he wants to bring in because he'll be thinking about that now, and he'll be thinking about possibly Champions League group stage qualifier. In fact, he won't probably be thinking about qualifiers. He'll be thinking about the group stage, won't he? That's well, there's a few people are agreeing there, you know, but that's the way I think he tends to work. You know, he's all in. But
I agree. I think so. And I mean, this is something you're fond of referencing that interview back in was it November? Where he said about his beautiful house and he's trying to build it. You go to the beautiful house analogy all the time. I go back to the very start when he was at the kind of the first couple of pressers and he talked about creating special things and all of that. Now, no matter what analogy it is you want to use, no matter what way you want to quote him, it all comes back to the same thing in terms of he's building something to last. It's not just for the here and now. He's doing it a lot quicker than anybody thought he would, first and foremost. But he's not just building it for now. So whether, I mean, at the end of my article, which again, I'm not giving it all away, it's better. I explain it much better than writing than I ever could talking. So go on, log on, subscribe, go and read it. But basically, with the beautiful house thing, I make the point at the end of that given what I've said about the Dermot Desmond glimpse behind the curtain and all that, and building the things for the future and not just but for the next transfer window, but for the next few years, they've got a trustworthy manager. They've got a young squad, as I've pointed out, built to last. They've got a clear vision on the field. I think the tools are there off the field.
Yep.
Not only for Postecoglou to build this beautiful house, but it could be building a whole skyline at this rate. It's all there. It's all there if they want to build it for them.
Correct, Armando. And whilst you're on the website, you can also read Alan Stubbs talking about the similarities, which I wrote this morning, between 1998 and 2022, with recruiting a manager from Japanese football, a relative unknown, as they say. It's all there, and Alan Stubbs being cast in the Carol Starfelt role, Mark Reaper being Cameron Carter-Vickers. You can have a read at that, guys. It's quite positive. It's very good. David Bradley here coming in. He is solid, no weakness in Ange. Yeah, I mean, I think, do you know what? Ange is what was needed at Celtic Football Club back in June. Didn't realise what he was going to bring to the table. Nobody did. But he has given Celtic one major thing, Sean. He's given the supporters their club back in those terms, but he's now given them an identity on the football park. There's a solid structure there. You see what he's trying to do. It's entertaining. It's the Celtic way. It's all of these things, but it's enjoyable. And I just look at Saturday as the example that you said at the start as well, that so many Celtic supporters were smiling on Saturday. See the joy that he's brought in such a short space of time. That for me tells everything you need to know. Because what he inherited in June, every Celtic supporter was crestfallen. And he's just spread sheer and utter joy. And he's got a group of players that have bought what he's selling and then some. And a philosophy and a style that it's pleasing to the eye. You're actually going to Celtic Park and enjoying what you're seeing. And you're enjoying the manager. Yeah, the Celtic way indeed. But you're enjoying the way he handles the media, just everything about it. And you're excited about where he can take this. That's the thing for me. Yeah, and as you say, pride back in your club. I've never seen so many Celtic supporters so happy on Saturday. Social media was awash with just a happy Celtic support. Going back to what we've spoken about and I've written about as well, the collective of the management, the players, and the supporters, everybody in unison, singing from the same hymn sheet.
If we're going to go the biblical route, I suppose that's the Holy Trinity then, Tony, is it?
It is the Holy Trinity. The manager, the players, and the supporters. It's just been a joy to watch that whole collective come together this season. And it's a wonderful football club when all those three things fall into place.
Aye, as David says, quoting a wee bit of Paul McStay there, I think. Real buzz about the place. And then, I mean, fair enough. As I've said for months now, Richard Taylor, I take it the AU's probably a wee Australian flag, I presume, Richard, but that is the one segment of the Celtic fan base that can genuinely say that they're not just saying it after a few months of success and form, that they said it at the start, because you've got to admit most of the Celtic fan base and even the kind of the media and stuff didn't expect it like this at this stage so soon. Some obviously more downbeat about it than others. Some optimistic, but I always give credit to the fans down under and in Japan who had already seen it firsthand, knew what Celtic were getting, and had the faith in it. So fair enough. You did tell us so, Richard.
I told you they can wear the t-shirts. We told you so with pride now, and just with Andy's face on it. But it's just it's an exciting time for Celtic players, the manager, and the supporters, because everybody just wants to know what comes next. They're still on course for a treble, Sean. We'll touch upon that as we move forward during the week.
Yep.
Big game against Rangers.
Plenty to talk about.
Exactly. But as I say, I just think that performance on Saturday has had every Celtic supporter purring, everybody get into their work with a smile on their face, because they just sort of see something big happening.
Yep, that's it. I mean, you mentioned the collective again there. I've spoken about that a few times in pieces that I've done for the website. Ange mentioned that. What I would say gives you the glimpse into just how much the players have bought into what he's saying is, or what he's putting in place is. No matter what one of them's up for the media duties, and I'm not talking about the usual platitudes of one game at a time, although they do say those as well. But we different turns of phrases, the kind of belief, the confidence, the way that they talk about their football, their game, all of that. They talk up their teammates even when they're not asked, that kind of thing. I think that you can see Ange Postecoglou's philosophy coming through in the players when they speak as much as when they play. And I think that all speaks to a club pulling, certainly a team all pulling in the same direction. You're seeing that play out on the pitch week to week now anyway. So,
and an example of that was Friday when Giakoumakis was asked about the battle with Kyogo for the number 9 shirt, as they say, and he just kind of batted it back and said, "It's not a battle. I can't wait to have him back in the team.
Nah,
he'll contribute." Stuff like that, as you said, Sean, and and that's a brilliant thing. That was just a guy saying, "Wait a minute, I don't see it like that. If we're both scoring,
I know
it's good for the team. How can that be a bad thing?" So I really like that as well, and I guess that, as you say, that's that Ange attitude rubbing off on them, that it is about the collective. It's about the team, and what you can bring to the team. And it doesn't matter no matter if you're not starting, there will come a point where I'll turn to you to have an impact. So rather than sit and sulk, be ready for your moment and your opportunity.
Yep. He said that all season about the competitive training, setting you up for the games, and those that aren't playing still need to be ready. And I know that a lot of managers can say that, but I think you actually see it on the pitch. You've seen it on Saturday. The subs, I went on about the subs there. The subs come on and made that a 7-0 rather than a 4-0, put it that way, that kind of thing. And it also helps that when, no matter what one of them you think's your best player, whether you think it's Jota, Kyogo, Carter Vickers, or I could make the case McGregor, actually. No matter what one of them you think's your best player, the one thing I would argue that they all have in common is a selflessness.
Yeah.
It helps the rest of the team. There's no time for greed if your best players are showing no signs of greed. Like, what right would you have to be greedy if your best players aren't greedy? That kind of thing. I think that all sets a tone, and it comes from the manager, but it also has to be in place in the dressing room, and that's where your captain and your best players come to the fore. And I think again you're seeing it week to week.
Now we could talk about this for about an hour, I believe, Sean. But yeah, I've really enjoyed that. We've got a big game to build up to next Sunday, and we'll be there covering that, Sean. Can't wait. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
Try and keep the treble bid on course. As I say, we'll build up to that in the coming days. But guys, hope you've enjoyed that. Terrific, Sean. Your input, always brilliant. So I will end this one today at the 35-minute mark in a cameo Matt O'Reilly type role. I think we've both played here, Sean. But there you go. But have a happy Monday. I'm sure you will, guys. And we'll build it up slowly but surely to Sunday. Thanks, Sean.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.